In today's digital world, user expectations are higher than ever. Whether you're a business, nonprofit, or public institution, your digital experience matters. But what happens when those digital experiences fall short? Poor accessibility and disorganized content don't just frustrate users, they hurt your brand, your search rankings, and your bottom line. SiteImprove is an all-in-one marketing performance platform that helps teams optimize their reach, reputation, revenue, and returns. With tools for accessibility, digital governance, content intelligence, and search engine marketing, SiteImprove empowers organizations to create a better digital experience. Hear firsthand how a leading organization achieved 90% plus accessibility compliance.
Digital experience is a constantly evolving landscape. The way users interact with websites and apps has changed dramatically over the years, and organizations are working hard to keep up. Some of these changes are driven by innovation, while others, like accessibility, are often shaped by regulations that push us all towards a more user-friendly experience. I'm Jeremy Gonzalez, a senior accessibility analyst at SiteImprove. Before joining SiteImprove 3 years ago, I worked in higher education as a web developer and designer. I've spent my career helping organizations create accessible, high-performing digital experiences that meet both user needs and compliance standards. One example of this is the Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. By 2026, many organizations will be required to comply with web content accessibility guidelines or face potential fines up into the six figures. But this isn't just about legal requirements. A strong digital experience can give you a competitive advantage and increase your brand loyalty. Research shows that user-friendly designs can increase the number of actions people take on a website by up to 400%, and organizations that prioritize accessibility can see as much as a 23% boost in revenue. At the core of this simple truth, accessibility is necessary for some, but helpful for all. When we design with inclusion in mind, we create better experiences for everyone. One of the biggest challenges organizations face is time. In fact, 69% of teams say they don't have enough time to address accessibility issues. But what if fixing digital experience issues could take as little as an hour a month? The good news is with the right tools and processes, organizations can streamline accessibility work, integrate into existing workflows, and see results fast. Today, we're featuring an organization that has embraced this mindset, the George Washington University. GW has been proactive in ensuring that students, faculty, and staff can easily access information and resources that they need. As a result, their sites average a 90% or above compliance with their internal standards, well ahead of the curve. To talk more about this, I'm joined by two key members of GW's digital team, Annette and Terry. Annette leads the communications and marketing team, shaping the university's web presence, and Terry is a web associate focused on digital accessibility, quality assurance, and web content management. Annette, before we dive into the digital accessibility, can you tell us a bit about yourself and GW, who you serve, what drives your approach, and the digital experience?
Thanks, Jeremy. We're really happy to be here and to share a little bit about our journey and successes with digital accessibility. My name's Annette Thompson. I lead the team responsible for GW's public-facing web presence within the Office of Communications and Marketing at the George Washington University. My background is in computer information systems. I have a master's in information systems technology, and I'm currently working on a doctoral program in AI and machine learning. GW, George Washington University, is a private institution located in the heart of Washington, D.C. We've got over 25,000 students and roughly 6,400 faculty and staff. We have 3 main Drupal instances on campus. We have our central GW Drupal that serves most of our schools and administrative units. We also have an instance for our School of Medicine and Health Sciences and medical faculty associates, and an instance for our Library and Academic Innovation Division. Here, from the communications and marketing standpoint, we try to ensure that we're providing a high-quality user experience across all of our websites for everyone, including members of our community with disabilities. Wherever possible, we aim to take a holistic approach to this. Today, you're speaking with members of our web team, but accessibility is a thread that runs through everything we do, from social media to multimedia to our visual design and communications. We want to offer a robust, inclusive experience that meets the broad needs of our community, of our current community, as well as prospective students, faculty, and staff. Over the last few years, we have worked diligently to improve our approach to accessibility and have tried to come at it from a few angles. So, on the technical front, we have um, really worked to ensure that our templates and our themes meet accessibility standards on the technical level. And from a client-facing perspective, we've tried to build and improve our education and support around digital accessibility. Terry Carter is a member of our team who has worked a lot on this. So, Terry, I will throw it over to you to share a little bit more.
Sure. Thanks, Annette. Hello, everybody. My name is Terry Carter. I am a web associate here in GW's Office of Communications and Marketing. My primary responsibilities include accessibility, quality assurance, supporting the web leads in day-to-day operations, as well as conducting, content management with our partners across the university. I also primarily manage the Site Improve platform for our team and act as a liaison um, between ourselves, our account manager, and Site Improve support staff.
That's great. Thank you. Welcome both. It's clear at GW, web accessibility isn't just a checkbox. It's part of how you create a better experience for all your users. But identifying issues is just the first step. In my work consulting on your digital experience and accessibility, uh, I see two types of organizations. A lot of times it's those that treat accessibility as an afterthought and try and retrofit in their accessibility. And then more like your organization, where those that build accessibility into their processes from the start. At DW, it's clear that the audience experience is a priority throughout the entire production process. From the way alt text is written to how the pages are structured, everything follows a logical and accessible pattern. I've also worked with a lot of your departments, and what stands out to me is how aligned everyone is on accessibility. Even with different backgrounds and technical skill levels, the teams truly get the digital experience principles and accessibility best practices. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how your processes have evolved and how you've gone about aligning everyone with accessibility.
Sure thing. So, we really try to make sure that accessibility is something considered at the beginning of any project and not something that we have to band aid and fix as we get further along and prepping for launch. So part of that, that begins with a good content strategy that keeps accessibility in mind in terms of how people navigate through a site. Um, Absolutely, with the visual design and selection of colors and layouts, we want to make sure that those include accessible, that we're taking accessibility into consideration. From that standpoint, as a site is built out, we try to spot check these things as we go. And then once a site is preparing for launch, we run it through Site Improve and do one final scan to make sure that everything looks good.
If you'd like to serve your audience better, improving your site's digital accessibility is a great way to start. Whether you're starting fresh or refining your approach, here are some tips that we've worked closely on together with GW. Remember, digital accessibility is part of the user experience, and it has a direct impact on site conversions and downstream revenue. Start early. Integrate accessibility into the planning stages of your content strategy and add review phases to project timelines. Keep up momentum. After planning, embed accessibility into design, including color contrast, semantic HTML, navigation, and layouts. Use the right tools. Leverage tools to scan for accessibility, like Site Improve, to monitor for potential improvements before launch.
We've talked about the importance of accessibility, but how do you actually make it happen? GW has built accessibility into their digital strategy, and that shift didn't happen overnight. It takes effort, collaboration, and a shift in how teams work together. Joining us now are two more key members from GW's team who have played a major role in making accessibility part of their everyday work. Ethan and Tracy. Ethan, we'd love to hear about you and your role, how you focus on training and user support across GW's digital tools. Can you give us a quick intro and take us through your approach to accessibility training?
Hey, Jeremy. I'm Ethan Lesage. I'm a digital support strategist at within the Office of Communications and Marketing on the same team as Annette and Terry. I have a adult learning and instructional design background, and focus on training and support for a lot of the digital platforms that we use across the university. And digital accessibility is absolutely one of the topics that we focus on. It's something that I do regular trainings about on a bi-monthly basis. We also try to build accessibility into the conversation of many of the other trainings that we're doing. So whether that's for mass email or site improve or Drupal, we're still talking about digital accessibility in all of those conversations. It's something that we also build into our support conversations. So if somebody's coming to us asking for help with something, we try to make sure that we're helping them with what they're asking for, but also ensuring that they're thinking about these digital accessibility best practices. Um, because of these efforts and the work that a lot of people have done, I've seen a significant increase in the awareness of digital accessibility, people thinking about it much more and noticing that these best practices are being built into people's workflows at an early on stage so that by the time they get to us, whether it's in training or support or just regular conversations, I'm noticing more of these things just already there because of previous conversations that we've had or experiences that they may have had.
That's a that's a big shift, and I love to hear that. Tracy, welcome. You're involved more on the development and technical side. At a practitioner level, can you tell us about your role and how accessibility has changed in your day-to-day development work?
Sure. Hello, I'm Tracy Hilbert. I'm a web lead for administrative units and also full stack web developer for the School of Medicine, Health Sciences, and the Medical Faculty Associates at GW. I've been a Drupal developer for over 15 years, and in my current role, not only do I do development work, but I also work closely with admin units and clients and stakeholders on content strategy, redesign projects, and really so much more. Oftentimes, I feel like I'm bridging the gap between technical and non technical users. Over the years, our approach to development has matured a lot since the time we built Drupal 7 and the framework that is now our Drupal 10. And this is also really reflective of our team. We've learned a lot, and we've learned a lot about what we don't know. Really putting accessibility best practices not only makes a better digital experience for all, but it is also helping your SEO and for broader organic reach. So when we completed our Drupal 7 migration, we actually placed accessibility and usability at the forefront of our Drupal development. And this really meant kind of discussing color contrast in the theme design, semantic HTML, keyboard navigation with assistive technology, really at the planning stage. And we were lucky that we were starting from scratch with our Drupal build when we moved from 7. And I say this because really retrofitting solutions later on would have been much more difficult and time consuming.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ethan and Tracy, for your input. Super valuable. Excited to hear more from you and further on in the fireside chat. Annette, I'll pass it back to you. Let's talk about how things were before you partnered with Site Improve. What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Sure thing. We've been a Site Improve customer for more than a decade. And in the early days of the relationship, we had a pretty limited contract that allowed a certain number of pages crawled per year. Back in the roughly 2017 timeframe, like a lot of institutions, GW received a formal complaint from the Office of Civil Rights regarding the accessibility of our websites. And that really prompted a conversation about how we can better monitor and maintain an accessible web presence. And so it was at that time that we decided and got the institutional buy-in to expand to the full enterprise instance of Site Improve. And that has been a game changer. It allows us to have eyes across. We've got, I think, 766 sites in the platform at the moment, just thousands upon thousands of pages being crawled. We utilize features such as the policy module to locate content within our sites, utilize the QA and SEO modules on a regular basis. All of that put together helps us, es- helps us maintain an accessible and high quality web presence. Also, stemming out of the OCR complaint was the need to really expand our training and support structure. And so that's where Ethan comes in and the other members of our team who provide day to day support. We really have attempted to bake accessibility in, at very formal levels in terms of some of the trainings that we provide and require for certain users at the institutions, as well as take advantage of those informal opportunities when we might be talking to somebody about how to upload an image. We can also educate them on the importance of alt text.
That's definitely a significant shift and a lot of challenges that you faced, and your hard work has certainly paid off. Terry, from your perspective, what's changed in how teams at GW handle accessibility day to day?
Sure. I don't know if our time allots me to talk too much. I could go on for hours about that. So one of the things we've noticed is the people that are coming. So we conduct daily virtual office hours sessions. We do a lot of support within our department. One of the things we've noticed over the past 5 years is people come into those sessions with a higher baseline of knowledge than they did 5 years ago. I'm frequently in a position where somebody is sharing their screen with me while I'm walking them through, various steps of changing some sort of content on their site or troubleshooting something or some sort of technical, help that's being offered. And I'm watching them go through these processes. And 5 years ago, the number of people, that we would have I would be helping adjust their content and they'd be uploading an image and they'd either skip the alt text section or they would fill out alt text that wasn't helpful, such as a file name or a photo of a building or something like that. um, I never see that anymore. I can't recall the last time that happened. We've also taken steps to prevent that to begin with. So I believe when I first started at GW, it was possible in one of our earlier versions of Drupal to bypass that field. That's no longer the case. If you try to bypass that field, it will prompt you, and I believe it'll prompt you to fill it out. But I believe it'll also offer to kick you over to one of our Drupal support sites, or offer some sort of link to information on alt text. The other thing we've done is we've implemented checks for PDF files. Similar to how you're prompted to enter alt text, if you're uploading a PDF file to our sites, you also have to acknowledge that they've been remediated for accessibility, and that they are not being uploaded as a photocopy, or like a printed PDF. That's just not acceptable from the start. Um, the number of people that reach out to me, I think at last count, we had around 550 people in the platform. That's 550 staff members at GW that use it. Several members of our team received our Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year last year, and we're within the top 5% of users. I would estimate that my usage of it is probably around 10 to 15 hours a week. Some of that is for my own work, some of that is supporting our broader web team, and a lot of it is also walking people, that support aspect I talked about earlier, where we're walking people through the platform.
I want to go back and mention another factor that plays into what Terry described in terms of the elevated baseline knowledge of our community. And that is for people who manage digital content, and that's determined based on who has user accounts in Drupal and our mass email platform and a couple other tools. We do require every other year that they complete a digital accessibility assessment. And Ethan, I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about that, since you are the keeper of that process.
Yeah, for sure. So like Annette said, it's a digital accessibility assessment that's also paired with a short training video that hits a lot of like the major points that we focus on in terms of policy and best practices for digital accessibility. We work with the human resources team to have this assigned in the same way that other mandatory trainings are assigned, and have gotten fairly good buy-in with the people it's assigned to. Most people recognize that their role does have some kind of impact on creating or editing or planning digital content, and they can have an impact on that content's accessibility. So it's something, as Annette said, we assign every other year. And recently I looked and we've had over 700 people complete it. So while that's more than the amount of Drupal users we have, it's users who are using all sorts of different platforms, whether that's like our mass email tool or another CMS. So it's nice to see that people are taking it seriously, and that we've hit such a significant amount of folks who are building it into their workflows and being more aware of it.
Thank you, everyone, for your input. Terry, you talked a little bit about requiring alt text on images, um, but it's very clear that from all of your trainings, your culture shift in accessibility, and really focusing on that process, that it's not just filling out and requiring a certain piece of content to make it accessible. When I come to your site and look at your image descriptions and alt text, it's very well described, that people are thinking about accessibility. So um, big kudos to everyone on the team, and your organization for making those steps and changes. Terry, I want to turn back to you. GW has moved from to our manual testing as a service model. We used to do project-based testing where we would, send out these massive reports. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how that shift from, the once a year testing to the more collaborative biweekly approach has had an impact on your team.
Sure, I'd love to. So as Jeremy kind of alluded to with SiteImprove, several years back, our process used to be that we would send them, I believe it was around 28 pages once a year. And that was usually done around 6 months before we got the report. And then, 6 months later, we would receive a report that had a very detailed assessment of those 28 pages. And it was usually a couple hundred pages long. And then we would have an opportunity to meet with SiteImprove's team for, I believe, about an hour to go over that report. And if you've ever tried to read a 100-page book, you can imagine how much you'd get through in just under an hour when you're asking questions about it. So that was useful, I think, but it was also tough to get buy-in from our broader community because the process was a little bit more removed from them. And it was also, of those 28 pages, they'd be made up of different stakeholders. So those stakeholders in turn would also receive this document with tons of information that, wasn't relevant to them. So over the past couple of years, we've moved to a biweekly meeting process where we, maintain a queue of sites or a queue of pages to be reviewed with SiteImprove on a rolling basis every other week. And then we receive the report a day or two in advance, and it's just a couple of pages long, but it still has all the detailed information that we need out of that report. And then we have the opportunity to meet with Jeremy and our account manager to go over it. This is much more useful to both our central team and the site owners, as it's a more real-time check. It offers them a fast and easy process to get involved with SiteImprove, to get real-time feedback. Sometimes when we get the report, we immediately get to work remediating those issues. So by the time we meet with Jeremy, we're able to ask, does this resolve the issue? Did this fix it? And he can actually check it in real time for us. And it also, if they're more complicated issues, it gives us the chance to take the time that we need to resolve them and then put that page back in the queue for Jeremy to look at. And then again, we get that real-time feedback that we wouldn't get if we were just meeting with them once a year. And then anytime we have extra time at the end of those meetings, we've utilized them to kind of do Q&A sessions with Jeremy about different accessibility needs. The other thing we've used that process for is to occasionally check web-based applications or different features that we might deploy to our test environment of Drupal that we're not ready to roll out because we want to do those last minute checks. So that's been really helpful. It's been really great to have, and we're really excited that process has evolved over time.
I'll add that having that ongoing dialogue has been really helpful in building the relationship with Jeremy and the folks at Site Improve has been great. It's also been helpful in terms of pulling in our stakeholders and giving them the opportunity to see the real world impact of an accessibility issue on their site. No, not everyone knows how to use a screen reader. Many people have never seen that or really thought about it, and so being able to pull people in ad hoc and give them the opportunity to learn and to work to a solution has been really helpful.
Ethan or Tracy, any other thoughts you want to add to those?
Yeah, sure. I think so like we don't like to think of accessibility as like a box to check or something that is this requirement. But looking at site improve with folks in support sessions, there is like a almost like a gamification sense where people are interested in seeing their scores rise or interested in seeing the impact of these minor changes being reported as soon as the crawl finishes. And I think that that's been not something I would have necessarily predicted, but you can tell people like to see that improvement. And that's something that we wouldn't have without using site improvement this way.
I would second that, and I would also say that it's really nice from a development standpoint to have a second set of eyes just double checking our work to make sure that it's really available to everybody.
This conversation is making me think about some examples of sites that we've brought to Jeremy for the manual testing. I'm thinking of things with tabs, accordions inside tabs, um, third-party widgets like chatbots, or perhaps RFI forms. Tracy, I know you've brought several things to Jeremy for those sessions. Do you mind going over a couple of them?
Sure. Two recent projects that come to mind are the redesign projects for Title IX and Disability Support Services. Now, I want to preface that neither of these sites are very flashy by any nature. Our goal was to partner with the clients, stakeholders, to really focus on readability, the navigation and flow, appropriate link text and linking behavior, language improvements and consistency, and just really a clear organization of structured content. One of those things is the reporting options for Title IX. Our users who come to this website, and of course, we're keeping those audience members involved, is a sensitive topic. And so making sure that they have a clear structure that is easy to navigate and work through, and to knowing what options are available to them.
Another one that comes to mind recently is the topic of maps. Jeremy's helped us look at a handful of different map examples and understand what is accessible, what's not, if we need to modify the page or add additional information to make it accessible. That's been very helpful.
I also want to note that we've really worked to kind of hone in our color contrast colors. We have a web accessibility color combination guide that helps content creators kind of make informed design choices. So you may notice if you looked at that Disability Support Services website and the Title IX website, they have a different look and feel between the two of them. And those have all been color contrast tested as well.
Yeah, and to that point, I meant to mention this earlier. It's been that the design, the document that Tracy mentioned, and the website that has our brand colors, and then accessible combinations of them that can be used and where they're appropriate for, was really helpful in having our web team. We collaborated with the design team here at GW to make that, and that was very helpful, because we're learning a little bit about their process and they're learning a little bit about our processes. Was really useful for that kind of like pollination of different accessibility workarounds across departments.
I also think going through this journey of digital accessibility and with color contrast specifically has informed our print design. Even though there might not be the same official guidelines, we do try to keep contrast in mind on print more than we did in the past.
It's clear that GW has made incredible progress on your accessibility journey, enhancing your user experience and the usability of your site. Not just in fixing the digital experience issues, but in embedding accessibility into the work you do every day. But as we all know, digital accessibility isn't a one and done project. It's an ongoing commitment.
GW has made accessibility a core part of its digital experience strategy, leading to measurable improvements, including a 10.6% increase in their Digital Certainty Index, DCI. This metric evaluates more than 200 checkpoints across quality assurance, SEO, and digital accessibility, helping teams continuously improve their sites. Are you concerned that digital accessibility won't be adopted because it could feel like extra work to your site users? Luckily, there are best practices and tools out there to help you. Lessons from GW: how to build internal buy-in for a digital accessibility program that results in long-term success. Educate and train. Offer regular training to ensure teams know how to create accessible content across web, email, print, and support communications. Provide support. Dedicate office hours time and practical hands-on guidance to help teams understand the tools available to them and be able to confidently use them for accessibility best practices. Create clear policies. Publish accessibility policies and guidelines and require completion of internal assessments. Implement ongoing monitoring. Build in checks for developers and required fields for content editors to help catch issues early. Test regularly. Define a cadence for regular accessibility audits and manual testing throughout the year. Involve stakeholders. Demonstrate the real-world impact of accessibility improvements to help leadership stay engaged and invested. Encourage engagement. Use gamification strategies like scoring systems or leaderboards to encourage friendly competition and ongoing improvement. By embedding accessibility into everyday workflows, organizations can create a digital experience that works for everyone without adding unnecessary complexity.
We've talked about how GW has built user experience and accessibility into their digital strategy. But for universities looking to follow in their footsteps, what should they do next? First, we recommend conducting a comprehensive digital experience and accessibility audit, implementing any technical fixes, training for their faculty and staff or content contributors, establish an ongoing monitoring and feedback system, and communicate and publish internal policies and resources. One of the biggest lessons from GW's journey is that accessibility isn't just about compliance. It's about creating a better user experience for everyone. GW is in the top 5% of site improved users. They're always pushing for innovation, and we're proud to support their journey. Annette and Terry, congratulations on being in the top 5%. What does the future hold for digital experience and accessibility at GW? And what things are you working towards next?
We are, I think earlier we mentioned that we average 90% plus in terms of our accessibility score across our sites. That's not one and done. We are always looking to inch that metric up. But we're also thinking about accessibility, again, more holistically. And so it's not just that our technical templates meet the requirements, but that the content is in good shape, that it's user-friendly, that it's accurate. We're really trying to put in processes that help us stay on top of editorial calendars. As you can imagine, at a university, their content is continuously changing, deadlines as the semesters turn over, all that type of stuff. So we're really trying to make an effort in terms of the overall quality of our web presence. Tara, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the Accessibility Working Group, because that's been a great enhancement over the last year.
Yeah, so our Digital Accessibility Working Group is made up of faculty and staff across GW. We have around 20 people that join us every week, and that fluctuates somewhat depending on people's availability. It's open to everyone to join as able. We try and gather different stakeholders across the university, so we're not just isolated to our central web team or our central communications team as far as, what is an accessibility blind spot? What is a potentially rising issue? What's on everybody else's radar? We really wanted to get staff across the university, so there's some cross-pollination there. What's been really helpful is we do have an individual from our Libraries and Academics Innovation unit that joins, and she primarily focuses or interfaces with our faculty. So we also get a training, a little bit of an insight to how faculty are interacting with students. And then another goal of this group is if we do identify issues across the university, we log them and track them, and if necessary, we run them up to the what we call our accessibility committee, which is made up of executive level staff that tracks issues across the university and addresses them, and it was really central to developing our GW accessibility policy that we have.
Just wanted to add the accessibility committee is digital and physical. And so the digital accessibility working group was born out of that because there was a need for more ongoing connections and communications across the university on the topic of digital accessibility.
Love it. Well, again, thank you everyone for your time. It's been really insightful. Any final thoughts or advice you want to share? Unexpected revelations as you've gone through this process?
I guess I would share with the folks listening to this webinar, particularly if you are impacted by the Title II requirements and maybe you're new to determining how to tackle digital accessibility. It can seem a little bit daunting at first, but really breaking it down into manageable pieces, hitting those key points that Jeremy mentioned earlier, building out both formal and informal ways of educating your community and supporting them. I think those are all keys to getting to a successful outcome.
Yeah, I would also add, I guess, a piece of advice or a little bit of retrospective on my part. Coming into this 5 years ago, if somebody had asked me the amount of pushback we were going to get when we tell people that accessibility is a requirement, I would have. It was something that I worried about, and it's been pleasantly surprising that there has been virtually none. I mean, one thing that we've, I think, done really well here at GW is giving people examples they can relate to. So, everybody, when they launch a website, they're thinking about marketing and SEO and how is the site going to appear on Google. And one thing we start with a lot of times is like, if you're building your site to be great for Google, you're building your site to be accessible. So you want to pay attention to accessibility because it makes the content more digestible for Google. On top of, it's the right thing to do. And you're losing potentially a quarter to half of your audience if you're leaving out accessibility integration. And then you also always have the fallback of it is a legal requirement. But luckily, I don't think we've ever had to fall back on that. But so I guess to say it's been pleasantly surprising how much almost immediate buy-in we've had from many people at the university.
Yeah, and from a training perspective, that why that Terry is describing, like the impact that it can have, is super important for any kind of adult learning. The relevance connects to why people might want to build it into what they're doing, and it's allowed me to have a higher baseline of that accessibility knowledge, and then pick other topics that are a little bit more in depth for future training. So whether that's going from an accessibility general overview to spending an hour talking about alternative text and how you might do it for different things like complex images and graphics or personal headshots. And we can kind of, there's an appetite for people to dive a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more because the topic has been socialized so much in all these different ways through committees, through conversations, through support, through training. And then it just makes our jobs a lot easier. And there isn't much pushback. People understand it.
And to Terry's point, the difference between the impact on digital accessibility and SEO is measurable. You can see that in the analytics. Absolutely.
Key takeaways: how to make audience experience and accessibility proactive, not reactive. Foster collaboration. Create cross-departmental working groups and informal channels to have conversations about accessibility. Make bite-sized changes. Break down the requirements of evolving regulation into more manageable pieces that you can prioritize. Consider the hidden benefits. Socialize the gains in organic reach and growth in revenue from improving digital accessibility.
Great. Again, huge thank you to all of you. Keep up the good work. It's been a pleasure working with you all. Let's keep working towards a more accessible digital future.